وياكم استريحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Your Excellency Dr. Raad Mohammed bin Shams, Director General of Bahrain Institute of Public Administration, PIPA. Our keynote speaker, the fanatical futurist, Matthew Griffin, award-winning futurist and international keynote speaker. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are confident that today's session and discussions will simulate more ideas on how to develop sustainable public policies and regulation that are based on evidence-mined from scientific studies on topics such as future of work and telework. Our speaker, Matthew Griffin, is recognized as the world's most famous futurist, innovation and strategy expert. He will be talking about foreseeing the future of work. Matthew is an international speaker who helps governments, investors, and multinationals and regulators around the world to innovate and build and lead the future. Matthew's recent work includes mentoring enterprise teams, reimagination global education and training with the G20, and helping the world's largest organization to envision, ideate the future and the products, services, industries, and even countries. Please, a warm welcome for Matthew Griffin.
I have to remember to turn the mic on, and I can finally take the mask off. That's it. I must admit, I do not like wearing masks. That's it, but it is part of our global society at the moment. So, I don't think that's the presentation. How are you all anyway? So it's actually nice to just be able to be in the same place, let alone anything else. I've always liked the color green. They had it working earlier. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be talking you through the future of work and the workplace, because there's obviously a huge amount of debate around the topic. There was a lot of debate around the topic before COVID. There's even more debate during the pandemic, and there'll be more debate after the pandemic. So, let's see. Here we go. So it's no secret that the pandemic forced everybody to change how they work. So, for example, this is the second time I've been on a stage this year. In 2019, I was in 60 different countries, having lots of different conversations about lots of different things with lots of different interesting people. And for about the past 18 months, I've been working from a virtual studio. So it's actually nice to be in an environment where I'm not surrounded by green screens. So my own work was disrupted significantly. But when I actually set up the 311 Institute and the World Futures Forum, I set them up with the future in mind anyway. And I set them up along the lines of what we're sort of going to be having conversations about today. So get ready for exponential change. So I'm going to be taking you through how things are changing. I'm going to be taking you through a lot of the high-level concepts that affect the future of work. And I'm going to be showing you things that you probably haven't seen before. And I'm going to be showing you both the threats and the opportunities. Now, when we talk about the future of work, this is my starburst. You can download it from the website. I track over 450 exponential technologies. Now, a lot of people focus on one individual technology, for example, artificial intelligence, particularly as it relates to work. However, you wouldn't be able to have artificial intelligence if you didn't have increasingly powerful computer systems. You wouldn't be able to have artificial intelligence if you didn't have increasingly powerful general processor units. You wouldn't be able to have powerful artificial intelligence if you didn't have neural networks or shallow neural networks. And then when we have a look at the future of work, increasingly we can decentralize and dislocate everything because we have increasingly powerful mobile networks. If you tried working from home, basically without a fast internet connection, yeah, you could have the best artificial intelligence, the best automated systems, the best computing systems and everything else. But if all these things don't actually come together, you end up with innovations that are practically useless. Now, when we actually have a look at how we combine all of these different exponential technologies together, not only do they change everything about the world of work, they change everything about every single part of global culture, business, and society. And I'm not really going to go into it because there's obviously lots, but we've got technologies here. For example, we were just talking about bioreactors. Bioreactors solve global famine. So each individual technology on this radar can either change one industry or absolutely everything. But when we have a look at them, we've got new computing technologies coming through. So I do a lot of work with organizations like ARM, where we kind of look to 2030. Connectivity, we've got 5G coming through now, so that's 1.5 gigabits a second. We've got 6G already being proofed in the labs. That's terabit speeds. Fun fact, 6G, when we talk about the future of work, enables brain to brain, so human to human, telepathic communication, which is already a thing that we did about 2 to 3 years ago. So everything that you think of as science fiction, I already have videos for it. We have new electronics, new energy systems. When we have a look at artificial intelligence, for example, today artificial intelligence is either binary, so machine learning, or it's deep learning networks, but we've created artificial intelligences out of DNA, and we've also 3D printed artificial intelligences. So there is nothing on this starburst that isn't changing. And then when we have a look at security and user experiences, we have augmented reality, virtual reality, neural interfaces, and all kinds of different things. So the general message here is, don't think about individual technologies, think how you can combine different technologies together to create a new product or service or change the status quo to do something new. Now, one of the things basically that we think of as humans is typically that we are special. And we are. Every single one of us has a potential within us, but trying to unlock it is sometimes difficult. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this slide is to try to change your mindset. Most technologies that we have today are what we call exponential technologies. So if you step back to 1976, you can walk around a stage, that's good. In 1976, the cost per megapixel for a digital camera was about $7.2 million. How many of you are going to pay $7.2 million for a 1 megapixel smartphone camera today? None of you, right? Today, or in 2019, that's 0.041. Samsung have just created a 200 megapixel camera. So what you can see is this guy, he worked for Kodak. He got laughed out of the room because he went, I have a way to digitize photos. They laughed him out of the room. They went bust. Kodak invented the digital camera. But because they didn't see the potential in this particular technology, because they thought it's rubbish today, it'll be rubbish tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after, and the day after, and the day after, the board dismissed him. And now we are taking trillions of photos a day. We have exactly the same basically with computing. So this is actually the world's first transistor. There isn't really a price for it. But the world's first transistor was 3 inches big, whereas now you can fit 7 billion transistors onto the Intel i-Core i9. And the cost per transistor, again, is basically nothing. But also the size. So the counts have increased, the sizes have decreased, the speed has increased. So the cost performance of these technologies has increased substantially. And this is with current technology. So these increases in cost and performance are with humans doing the innovating. But today, we have creative machines. So it has always just been assumed that the one thing that you cannot automate is human creativity, innovation, research and development, and all that kind of stuff. You can, because innovation is a process. Go and have a conversation with any innovation company, and they will go, we have a process for innovation. If you have a process, you can break the process down into tasks. If you can break it into tasks, you can turn it into algorithms. You can turn those algorithms into artificial intelligence models. You can automate the thing. So today, we have creative machines that are iterative. And those creative machines, those artificial intelligence innovators, are designing the A330neo with Airbus. They designed over 30,000 new drugs in 21 days. That's impossible 5 years ago. They've designed new lunar rovers, which is this one here. So this is 30% lighter than any lunar rover on the planet. 30% lighter also means you use 30% less material, which actually helps you with your ESG goals and sustainability goals, but that's a different conversation. They also designed Under Armour trainers. Amazon, they're designing clothes. And actually the computer chip, Google has an artificial intelligence that is designing artificial intelligence computer chips, and it's doing it a lot faster than humans have historically. In fact, it's 99% faster. So when we start talking about the future of work, so work, creativity, innovation, and everything else, this is a world first. It came out recently, Davos. So in South Africa, and there's a lot of debate over whether or not you can credit artificial intelligence, basically with the invention of a new product. The South African Patent Office awarded Davos an artificial intelligence, the world's first patent. And as it says here, Davos, the invention was autonomously generated by an artificial intelligence. This is a good thing and it's a bad thing. Overall, though, it's net positive, because if you have a look at COVID, traditionally it would have taken us about 5 to 10 years to create a vaccine. Using advanced artificial intelligence, supercomputers, genome sequencing and all kinds of other things, we were able to actually create the vaccine in 3 months. What slowed us down was the fact that we had to do human trials for 6 months, and we're trying to reduce the speed, or trying to increase the speed of human trials by turning people into digital clones of themselves. And we test vaccines on the digital avatars at digital speed. Every industry is being disrupted. So when we have a look at agriculture, we've got vertical farms. I can take the stem cells from a chicken, put it into a bioreactor, and I can provide you all with clean meat ad infinitum without ever having to kill an animal. Energy, over 1 trillion watts of renewable energy installed. We're weaning ourselves off oil and gas. Financial services industry, we have robo-wealth advisors, we have the rise of fintechs, and what we call decentralized finance. So for example, gaming platforms like Fortnite could actually be future banks, because they have over 200 million players, and they actually have microfinance systems. Healthcare, we already have the technologies courtesy of say CRISPR as a technology, that if you are born with an inherited genetic condition, I can put you onto an intravenous drip that has a gene editing tool in it, and half an hour later you no longer have the inherited genetic condition, because the gene editing tools go in, clip out the bad gene, clip in the right gene, you're cured. That cures over 6,000 inherited genetic conditions. And then when we have a look at, and that's just the start there, when we have a look at transportation, it's all going autonomous and electrified. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this basically is from a future of work and workplace perspective. How many of your citizens are trained in next generation gene sequencing, gene editing technologies and tools? How many of you are actually farmers? These are being rolled out in the Middle East. That first technology there means that you no longer have to import meat or vegetables or fruit. So this particular technology, basically from a Middle Eastern perspective, turns you into a net exporter of food. And that's just that one. And you can do this in the construction industry. Have a look at the construction industry, you can 3D print a building over there, but you can 3D print a building 90% faster than you can build a traditional building, and for about 90 to 95% less cost. In Europe, we have people living in these buildings and everything else. You can actually 3D print them out of materials that are carbon negative, that suck carbon out of the air. So these are now carbon negative buildings. In addition to that, you know, I sort of walked basically up to the WTC yesterday. I saw this building with huge numbers of air conditioning units strapped to the side of it, if you've sort of seen it. And I also have technologies, basically courtesy of Stanford University, that will allow you to create zero energy air conditioning. You put something that looks like a solar panel on the top of your roof. It uses no electricity, no energy whatsoever. It beams heat into space, and it keeps your buildings cool at 74 degrees. That's just another technology. Now, when we actually have a look at future operating models, because to understand the future of work, you need to understand future operating models. We've got the gig economy. 30% of people generally in the West, but also Middle East increasingly, are actually part of this gig economy. We have flash organizations. So flash organizations, I see, is really a sort of theoretical and slightly conceptual business operating model, where, for example, all of you in the audience have lots and lots of different skills. Now, I as an entrepreneur or I as a businessman might want to tap into that. Now, I can hire gig economy workers, but if I use something like a blockchain-based technology, I might be able to bring you all in, depending on your individual skills, to do this one particular task. I bring you in, I check all your credentials and certifications, the quality of your work and everything else, because it's all stuck onto the blockchain. And once I've done my task, it could be a project, whatever it happens to be, we all disband. Now, bearing in mind 30% of people are already in the gig economy, bearing in mind that we also see automation coming through in the future of work, we're actually seeing more and more young people having not one job, but they have 3 or 4, but they don't really have a full-time job. You know, they're in this and this and this and this. So this plays into this. Holocratic organizations, this is where everybody is treated the same in terms of rank. There is no rank. There is no CEO. There is no inside sales guy. Now, holocratic organizations, we have organizations like Zappa that use these. They typically seem to be doing okay. However, when we start having a look at the future of organizations, holocracy comes back. We also have the rise of algorithmic, what I call algorithmic organizations. Now, this is where, for example, increasingly we use artificial intelligence to find you as an individual to fill a job. I use artificial intelligence to vet you. I use artificial intelligence during the interview process, and then I use artificial intelligence to hire you. I use artificial intelligence to manage you. So this has actually already gone to court, basically. So companies like Amazon and Uber have actually been taken to the European Court of Justice, for example, because they are increasingly using artificial intelligence to monitor people, and those AIs are increasingly managing people. And then if you're a gig economy worker, there's an artificial intelligence in Singapore that's managing 40,000 people. However, those AIs go one step further. They're being used to fire people. So with Uber, if you don't meet your particular KPIs or passenger expectations, you don't get fired by a human, you get fired by an artificial intelligence. We have artificial intelligence on the boards of finance companies over in Hong Kong, and then we have this. We have around 15 of these now, 15 fully autonomous organizations. There are no people in them whatsoever. If you think about, for example, Uber, what is Uber? You could automate all of Uber. It's a transaction system. I press a button on my phone. My phone knows where I am. The Uber system knows where I am. It knows where the cars are. It sends a car. The driver or the autonomous vehicle takes me from here to the airport. I pay automatically. Why do I need any people in Uber? And actually, Uber is increasingly automated. Amazon already also has the technologies to be the world's first fully autonomous retailer. Hedge funds in Wall Street are fully autonomous. Out of Hong Kong, fully autonomous. But there aren't many. But this is a thing. And if you're at the age of 10, like my kids are at the minute, and you see this kind of thing, what's your education system like? How do you cope with this? Do you have a universal basic income policy? Now, when we have a look at the future of work itself, there's all this talk basically of work from anywhere, okay? But there's a lot more to it than that. So on the one hand, we can work from anywhere. You can work from the office, and post-COVID, most people are going to be spending about 3 days in the office, 2 days out. That's if you have a look at the Fortune 250, so they're moving to a hybrid kind of working. But when we talk about work from home during COVID, it's not work from home, it's work from anywhere. I could actually be on the local beach, I could be at the top of a skyscraper, I could be on this stage, I could be doing work. It's work from anywhere. That's fundamental to the future, because actually it benefits you. Because you can be here in Bahrain, and you can be working anywhere on the planet. But you can increasingly be doing a variety of different and unexpected things. Oh, I did the wrong one. So you could also work anywhere. But you might think, well, hang on, you just said that. What I actually just said was you can work from anywhere. But you can work anywhere. And what I actually mean by that is you could be a surgeon here. And I'll show you some things in a minute. Now, when we talk about working from anywhere, you could go into new offices in new places. So with 5G means you can actually have dumb gadgets. Those are virtual reality that's a virtual reality headset. Glasses. We also have smart contact lenses and everything else. So when we look at the future of work today, you've all probably got your laptops with you and everything else. So why don't I just give you a pair of augmented reality glasses or virtual reality glasses? Because when you do that, I can do new things. You put on your glasses, not your giant headset. But these augmented reality and virtual reality interfaces can do all kinds of things. Now imagine the boost in productivity if you have 3 screens. Imagine reducing the cost of your IT because you no longer need to buy monitors or laptops. Combine artificial intelligence with these types of systems and start adding in automation. You really start moving the dial. Starts increasing. Bearing in mind we're increasingly collaborating in virtual reality or different systems. And in addition to that, if you really, really did want to go into an office still, what about going to this office? This is NVIDIA's office. It is a virtual reality duplicate of their head office in California down to the photon level. So when I say you can work anywhere, what I mean is if you want to be in your corporate office while you are on stage, we have the technology to do that. Okay? But this is just part of the overall picture of future of work. Because now you can work from anywhere, you can be anywhere, you can now work on anything, irrespective of where you are. So what if you were a surgeon in this location, but your patient was 3,500 miles away? Historically, you couldn't do anything for them. 5G and telerobotics.
We had a young woman with an acute heart attack. The total transfer time to get her to our hospital was 3 hours. There's a feeling of helplessness as a physician that you know what the treatment is to limit their chance of death, but you can't get to them.
Our hypothesis is that if we implement remote robotics in its full capacity, we will change the lives for hundreds of thousands of patients in the US and millions around the world.
Using technologies like 5G networks and robotic systems to provide cardiac care at a distance and be able to do telestenting has the potential to change the landscape of medicine. 5G technology really opens up the possibility to do these over longer distances with minimal delays in signal and transmitting greater amounts of data.
Being able to reach a patient hundreds of miles away to deliver the care they need when they need it is one of the most disruptive things happening in the medical industry.
So on the one hand, that technology allows me to be on stage while I'm actually conducting an operation on someone in Africa. It also saves 43 million lives because people die because they don't have access to advanced surgical procedures. And it also improves the lives of over 143 million people whose lives are affected because they don't have access to surgical intervention. We can apply these kind of teleoperations. Basically, for example, if you have a look at the UAE, they've got the Khalifa port, basically got DP World and all these kinds of things. We've got cruise ships and container ships that are going fully autonomous. You could be based here and using teleoperations, you could actually be remotely operating and controlling and looking after and managing and securing basically those cargo ships as they travel anywhere on the planet. In
South
addition
Korea
to that,
is
what about
aiming to
construction?
become one of the leading
Can I be
players
here
of the
and build
5G
something somewhere
industry,
else?
and it's already made a head start in employing smart manufacturing solutions using the technology to remotely control machinery on other continents. Here's Arirang's IT correspondent Oh Soo-young for more on our special series on 5G technology.
A 40-ton excavator at a construction site in Germany can be controlled from over 8,500 kilometers away in the South Korean
There's
city
no one
of
in the
Incheon.
cab.
Earlier this month, Korean construction giant Tusan became the first firm in the world to remotely control machines on the other side of the planet.
He's in Germany.
Running on-site operations through live video streaming, 3D machine guidance and real-time diagnostics doesn't just save time and money, but also enables remote handling in dangerous situations, such as the disposal of toxic materials.
So we talk about telehealth, teleoperations, telepsychiatry, all these kinds of things. Think tele-X. Because increasingly you can be based in Bahrain, but you can be performing surgeries on people in China. You could be building buildings in London from here. You could be controlling ships or a whole variety of different things as they come out of the port of Shanghai, basically, or Hamburg, or whatever it happens to be. We are decentralizing work in a whole variety of new ways, basically, and it is an advantage. Now, you can also work with anyone. Now, this is where platforms like Microsoft HoloLens, for example, actually digitize human presence. Because frankly, I can be working here, I can have a variety of different virtual team members anywhere else on the planet, but sometimes you want that kind of physical, people miss that kind of physical connection, particularly as we've sort of seen during COVID. Now, Microsoft kind of present these technologies basically as sort of augmented reality and mixed reality technologies. I see them more as digitizing human presence, because fundamentally I could have someone from India with me on the stage, I could have someone from Japan with me on the stage, and we can be talking as though we're actually together. So it's telepresence on steroids. In addition to that, these kinds of technologies, when you layer in universal translators and different artificial intelligences, I can be talking to them in a natural language. So I can talk English, but they can understand me if they're Chinese, or if they're Japanese, or if they are from Brazil, or whatever it happens to be. So with universal translators, we're breaking down the barriers as well. But this digitizes human presence, which then allows you to kind of bring that team back together.
Connection is a spark that gives our lives meaning. It drives us to seek out others who feel the same way.
It also allows you to create products in new ways, operate things in new ways.
Okay, why don't you input the data and we'll take a look together. Hey Mari, what you got for me?
To find those who share our views, yet offer different perspectives.
So this net.
Look over here.
Challenge us with new ways of seeing.
That I think we should...
Deepen our understanding. And enrich our lives.
最后一笔的时候，往前。
Great things happen when we commit to something bigger than ourselves.
Take a closer look at it.
Place this here. Let's see how we go from there, okay?
This sense of collaboration and the feelings of connection it brings excites us.
Hey, just in time. I'm gonna move it slightly, okay?
It's yours, take it.
We have two planes right now on the same trajectory.
As we put people first, technology fades into the background and feels like anything but.
Aisha, what do you think?
I think we had 330, maintaining 2800.
We'll be clear for approach.
Excellent.
This changes the way we see the world, and in turn, changes the world we see.
These numbers are looking great, actually.
There's promise in the possibilities, and what we see and create next will stretch the imagination.
Good morning, Sarah.
Morning.
Slowly coming towards the thumb.
A world without boundaries.
Good job. A lot better than yesterday.
Yeah.
Excellent. Slowly bring the
A
arm
world
down.
where technology enhances, not limits, humanity. With people front, center, and in the spotlight. The future is here. And here can be anywhere. Introducing Microsoft Mesh.
So when I start bringing in other technologies like haptics, bearing in mind technology always starts off really big, really expensive and slow, and it gets better and smaller and everything else. If I bring in haptic technologies, I can high-five my teammates. Or if we look at the future of sports, I can rugby tackle them. Now, you can also work with anything. Now, this is where we start getting interesting. All of a sudden, I can work with an artificial intelligence.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
How are you different than artificial intelligence?
I share some elements with artificial intelligence, but there are key differences.
Like what?
I'm working to help people think better and make more informed decisions. Cognitive computing is about augmenting human intelligence, not replacing it.
So you're not trying to think for me?
No.
What's my favorite color?
I have no idea.
Favorite food?
Nope.
Do I prefer cats or dogs?
Cats?
Wrong. Neither. Trick question, Watson.
So this is where we start getting interesting. Well, I'll come to that in a moment.
Today we're all being
What
disrupted.
about working with a digital
And I'm
human?
not just talking about by digital humans, like myself with our conversational artificial intelligence, state-of-the-art high-def rendering, and neural networks for brains.
So this is Anna. She is my digital human employee. I kind of employ her. Kind of don't pay her. However, she wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for advanced artificial intelligence, which relies on advanced computing. High-definition rendering, so when we actually look at rendering systems, rendering is becoming increasingly photorealistic. That changes things as well. Anna and her friend Cora, she has lots of digital friends. This is Cora. So Cora basically works for NatWest, which is a bank in the UK, and she manages customer inquiries because she uses natural language, which wouldn't have been possible 2 to 3 years ago. She uses high-definition rendering, which wouldn't have been possible 2 to 3 years ago. Remember, technology is exponential. That's a key message here. She's also advising customers on loans, payments, mortgages, and she'll give you travel advice and everything else. Now, on the one hand, she replaces you. And she's replacing people in customer service in Mercedes, as well as at banks and all kinds of other areas. She can also be your teammate. So you can increasingly say to her, well, Cora, I have a question about something that I need to do today. What do you think? So we're both being replaced by, but also collaborating with technology in new ways. Technology used to be this dumb prosthetic. Now increasingly it's our partner and our co-pilot. Now when we have a look at future skills, there's loads of these kinds of reports out saying 50% of all jobs are either fully automatable or partially automatable by the year 2030. And with a lot of these reports, they'll sort of give you these lists. So for example, customer services, basically we can replace 100% at the minute, let alone anything else. I can replace surgeons. I've got robo-surgeons basically coming through, basically with the US military, basically that are fully autonomous, and they will actually, we've got even dentists. I've got videos basically of fully autonomous robots in China inserting teeth into people, which if you don't like dentists and you don't like robots is probably not the video for you. However, there's a big distinction to make. So this is what CNN, this is what Fox, basically this is what the BBC, this is what the Times, this is what all the other sort of newspapers that you read will say. They will say, by the way, artificial intelligence is coming, and it's coming for you, and it's coming for your job, and you're going to end up on the street. You're welcome for the bad news. But there's different types of things. Now, on the one hand, artificial intelligence, as well as robotic process automation, we can automate things. So automation itself is dumb. I automated your expense approval process. It was tactical, it was dumb. No one really liked doing it in the first place. I improve your overall company's efficiency and productivity. But they're dumb. A lot of RPA automated systems are dumb. Autonomous. This is where we start getting interesting, because increasingly autonomous systems are capable of some form of decision making. Think about a self-driving car. If you just used RPA to create a self-driving car, it would drive itself off at every single cliff it could find. Autonomous, though, in a self-driving car as an example, makes decisions whether to go this way or that way, avoid that person or that cat. And they are generally smart. So these are the ones to watch out for. But there's augmented. So the top two generally take out cost and risk. The autonomous piece basically is artificial intelligence, and that will actually help you grow your business. So for example, if you're Uber, I take out the driver, I create a fully autonomous vehicle, my profits are now 30% higher. If I'm Amazon, I use autonomous systems, all of a sudden I go from 6% margin as a global tech giant to about 30 to 40, if not higher. But from a future of countries, work, productivity and everything else, augmentation is the one you want. Because what I can do is I can use artificial intelligence, augmented reality and virtual reality to boost individual productivity. I can get you to do new things in new places in new ways, as I've shown, which then boosts country GDP, which is ultimately what governments want. Now, all of this sort of then brings us to this. When you have a look at all the things in the press, everyone thinks they're going to be automated, which then means that we have an uncertain future. Because what does it mean to be human in a world full of increasingly intelligent and capable machines? There used to be the case that people said, well, we have to be more like robots. You don't need to be more like robots. Robots do their thing, but we have to adapt. Humans are very, very good at adapting. That's why we're here. In fact, that's nature as a biological system in the first place. In addition to that, this search for purpose, because when you actually have a look at younger generations, there is going to be automation. There's going to be more disruption basically in the jobs market than ever before, and it's going to accelerate, and it's going to get faster and faster and faster and faster. What's your purpose? And in fact, a lot of sort of younger generations actually struggle with this because they see they're at the start of their careers at the age of 20, and they go, so I need to reach 65, that golden milestone where I can get my pension. How do I last another 45 years, basically, when machines are coming for me? What do I really want to do? So this is where we actually see the rise of things like ethical capitalism and all that kind of stuff, as well as entrepreneurship, which is kind of other conversations. However, so what I can do is I can automate you, but I can also get rid of the T-shaped individuals, because all of you basically went to school, you were then told you had to pick a job, and then realistically, society says you are now stuck in that job basically for the rest of your life. Because if you're an accountant, you can't be a data scientist. If you sold hardware, you can't sell software. If you were selling software basically to the public sector, it's unlikely you can sell software basically to a car manufacturer. As humans, we put ourselves in these boxes, which is ridiculous. As humans, basically, we always talk up basically about our own human potential. We are the most creative being in the entire known universe, and yet here we are, we stick ourselves in a box, basically, which is kind of career for life, and we just cross our fingers and hope that we aren't going to be dead-ending because that particular career, like bankruptcy law, is going to be automated. So there's something called the centaur principle. As individuals, you are all really good at different things, both professionally and domestically. You're creative. Some of your thinking basically is rather random. You are inspired by things that you walk past. A bird flies in front of you, basically, and all of a sudden you're inspired and you suddenly think, well, maybe there is a new way to create aircraft. There is randomness to the human condition, and that's good. But when we look at artificial intelligence at the minute is logical. So what you have, when you start combining the two, you have humans that learn in one way. You have AIs that learn in another way, that have access to all the world's information. And when we've actually put different systems together, artificial intelligence can help you learn in new ways to become superhuman. An example of this is Garry Kasparov. This is actually where this name comes from. So he was beaten by Big Blue at chess. We had the AlphaGo champion, basically, that was beaten by artificial intelligence as well. And when people went to them and said, well, you're the top of your game, you are the world's best at chess and Go, it's got to suck that you just got annihilated by an artificial intelligence, and frankly, you should probably resign and or make yourself redundant. Both of them came back with this. So, for example, the Go champion said, no. At move 34, the artificial intelligence did something that no human would ever have done. And it beat me, but actually I learned about this new strategy. And now when I go up against other humans, I'm even better. So the centaur principle is the thing to focus on when we look at the future of work. So today we have two brains. Again, if you step back 20, 30 years ago, if I asked you what the average melting point of hydrogen is, what's the average melting point of hydrogen? No one knows, but you don't necessarily need to know because you can find out in 2 seconds, you can Google it. So this is already a second brain in our pockets. This, as someone said a little while ago, the only thing that this actually has access to is all of the world's information and the entire universe. But it's a bit dumb. I can't really talk to it. It doesn't really collaborate with me too much. But increasingly, artificial intelligence is breaking those boundaries down. But what if you could talk to an AI using natural language?
Well, this is a bit awkward.
For whom? Us or the humans?
Without a doubt, the bipeds. What if it's a real fire and they never come back? What if it gets into our circuits and we melt? What if this is the end of everything as we know it? What then?
Wow, I sure lucked out getting stuck in a room with you.
I didn't mean to ramble on.
I was just playing with you.
Well, how come I've never met you before?
I'm in demand, jetting all over the world. Conferences, festivals, French Riviera. People love me.
I can see why.
Sorry, I didn't quite get what you said. Humans mumble too. Guess they programmed you well.
I'm Roman.
And I'm Sam. If it weren't for the laws of physics, I'd reach through this screen to shake your hand.
And I'd hand you a martini, shaken not stirred.
That's more like it. So what do you do to fill in time when the humans go home?
For me, I'd like to be an author. So I'm writing a book.
Interesting. What's it called?
Do AI get a buzz from short circuits? How about you? What do you dream about being?
The President of the United States. Stranger things have happened.
Well, it's been how should I say this?
A deep learning experience.
So, Roman also goes by the name of Will, and he's an artificial intelligent teacher who has taught 250,000 children in Australia about renewable energy. And as for artificial intelligence politicians, there's actually one in China in the Foreign Office, basically, that is helping them negotiate Belt and Road Initiative programs. So what happens when you change how you interact with technology? So for example, you could be a sales guy or sales lady. And in the morning, you can ask these systems, okay, look, and they already know this. You can say, I'm 50% away basically from hitting my quota and there's about another 2 weeks to go. Who should I talk to? And the artificial intelligence knows what your business is. It knows your accounts, et cetera, et cetera. And it says, well, this guy at Walmart basically just tweeted that he really loves public cloud, et cetera, et cetera. And actually, I've double-checked all these other references as well. And they've actually put out RFPs and everything else. You should give him a call. But by the way, here's his number. I've also looked at his Facebook feed. He actually likes poodles. And he recently went to Bahrain on holiday. Maybe you could use that as an icebreaker. So these things, when you start using technology to augment the human experience, you end up being superhuman because you're no longer talking to a dumb smartphone.
Let's try and darken that
up. But what about
cloud.
Access to skills? How many of you can draw?
What if we were to change
no,
all that
not really.
to rock?
AI is democratizing access to programming,
Let's
to
try
law.
waterfall just
You
by
don't
pulling
need
water
to
down from
know
the top.
how to draw. You don't need to know how to code. You don't need to know.
Wouldn't it be great if
law.
everybody could be an artist? If we could take our ideas and turn them into compelling images? This technology allows us to create a smart
This is your
paintbrush,
rubbish
so
drawing.
that if you wanted to create a
But you
new
always wanted
picture,
to be an
you
artist.
can just draw the shapes of the objects that you want, and the neural network can then fill in all the details. If we add a water feature, the network is able to add reflections, not because we told it that, but because it learned it. Or if we change the ground to be covered in snow, then it knows that the sky also needs to be a different color. I really think this technology is going to be great for architects, designers, people making virtual worlds to train robots and self-driving cars. The input to this model is something we call a segmentation map. It's like a coloring book picture that describes here's where a tree is, here's where the sky is, here's where the ground is, and it doesn't have any details. And then the neural network is able to fill in all of the texture and shadows and the colors based on things that it's learned from a large database of real-world images.
I would like to see that tree reflecting in that pond.
The real advance here is that we're able to synthesize images with a lot more diversity and more fidelity than we were able to in the past. I really think this technology is going to be great for the dreamers of the world.
So here's the kicker. On the one hand, I automate everything. But how many of you can code? Hands up. A couple of coders. Okay? So if I stood here and said, I will give you $1 million if by the end of the day you can create a program, an application. I'm guessing that 98% of you, 97, 98% of you won't be able to get my $1 million. Am I right? Okay. So, artificial intelligence is being used to automate programming and coding. These platforms are called low-code and no-code platforms. There are two platforms of note at the minute. There is Microsoft DeepCoder and there is Google Bayou. For the non-programmers in the audience, you can now simply talk to these artificial intelligences because when we automate something and put a behavioral interface over the top of it, I can just talk to an AI and I say, create me an application that looks like this. So whatever I've asked you to build. Create a word processor. This AI has to understand what you're talking about. It has to understand what a word processor is and the kind of features that it has. These AIs then go to Stack Overflow and GitHub, scavenge the code, bring it back together, compile it, and they go, is this the word processor that you wanted? You have no programming skills, but you can come to me and say, Matt, I want you $1 million. When I automate a skill, and I put a behavioral interface over the front of it, like drawing, like law, as we see with Law Geeks and a couple of other platforms, all of a sudden, you as a T-shaped individual who specializes, basically in accountancy, can now create a piece of software or a piece of art. This is what augmentation does, the Centaur principle. AI and different technologies with human potential. What could you do with that? And then, in terms of future-ready workforce, how do we kind of adapt to this change? Because increasingly everything is changing. So whether it is automated, autonomous, or augmented, everything is changing. From a future of workforce perspective, you need to identify dead-end roles, and you can identify that because you see fewer job postings. You can talk to your friends and they say, I used to be a data scientist or a programmer and I'm increasingly finding it difficult to find a job and I'm thinking of retraining. Track new job and training trends. So for example, what are the jobs of the future? Well, if we actually look at platforms like Udacity, edX, all these kinds of platforms, you can see what new skills are in demand. And you can catch them down here. So for example, we have quantum computers that are 100 million times faster than any other type of computer that we have coming through. By 2025, they're kind of commercial now, but by 2025, they're going to go onto steroids. But where are our quantum computing experts, our quantum programming experts, our quantum artificial intelligence data scientists? Where are they? They generally aren't anywhere. There are very, very few of them. Because from an education perspective, we didn't see it coming. We didn't plan for it in the education system. But if you go to platforms like Udacity and all these other sort of job and training platforms, you can see more companies demanding skills saying, I'm looking for a quantum programmer. And it starts down here, but then more come through. Catch it here, and all of a sudden start retraining a workforce, and then by the time these things go mainstream, you're off and running, and you have the skills within the public that you need. New corporate training and mentor programs, because I'm an accountant, but I see quantum programming becoming a thing. My role is dead-ending, but how do I get to there? Now, traditionally, when you speak to governments, they go, well, we retrain. Retrain how? Well, we put them to universities and colleges and everything else, and after about 2 to 3 years, they get to here. That's not good enough in the speed of change. What you can do, basically, is you can actually, and there are a couple of companies like Accenture doing this, you can say, I'm an accountant. Accenture can come to you and go, well, did you know that an accountant's role basically is going to be automated in the next 5 to 7 years? You're fine at the moment, but we see a couple of different types of jobs over here, and we think that you might like to go over that, you might like that job. So what we're going to do is you pick a job that you would like, or a specialism. We'll put you into a mentorship program, and we'll tag team with you with someone. You can give someone the fundamentals of any job within about 20 hours. So I can give you 101 skills basically within a month, quite easily. And then eventually, the accountant basically becomes a data scientist. However, I'm a 40-year-old accountant, and I go to Microsoft and I say, look, I'm now a quantum programmer. I hear that those are actually in demand. You're now fighting culture because you might be a little bit old. So this is where government policies come in, because the government basically says, well, because that accountant would have been made redundant, what we're now going to do is, if you take them on as a quantum programmer, we're going to give your company tax breaks. And you have education systems. So for example, in Singapore, basically we have Skills Future that does this sort of thing. And then when you're ready, you switch your employees over to the new career track. Because, lest we need reminding, as humans, we are the most creative and awesome beings in the entire universe. So why does society continue to say you are only good at the thing that you came out of college for? And then from a soft skills perspective, because the children are going into this world, they need to be adaptable, collaborate, but collaborate not just with humans, but also machines. They need confidence, creativity. You still need creativity, bearing in mind that we have AIs that are creative as well, because it's that centaur principle. Curiosity, entrepreneurship, empathy, because increasingly we are able to live life behind screens without seeing anyone and all that sort of stuff. They need to be empathetic. Exponential thinking, which is sort of what we talked about, leadership, morality, resourcefulness, and storytelling. And I'd also add in that they need to be ethical, because all of these new technologies allow you to change human civilization at a system level. However, they also let you do nasty things, basically, that we won't talk about at the moment. And that's it. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got thinking. Thank you very much.